Hey, good morning. Sister Kate here on Election Day +1. There is a contentious election happening as people predicted because the social change in the country is affecting the politics. This is not an unusual thing. You have to look back into our history to know that, like I said, in the 20s there were the flappers, in the 60s there were the hippies, and it is an American thing to be a revolutionary, to be rebellious, because we rebelled against England when we perceived they were not treating us as the law said they ought to, because we were British citizens. So the hippies didn't like the post-war flavor in America. It was very conservative, very white t-shirt, blue jeans, smoked Marlboros, kind of, with all these conservative veterans showing up from the war in Europe. So they did the, hippie movement, peace, love, and drugs and all that. And the elections that followed sort of showed that. The elections in our country can be contentious. As I said in a prior video, the designers of our Constitution understood there are different parties of people in our United States who have different opinions, and so they expected there to be clashes, and the way they designed our system was so everybody had to compromise and no one voice got to take over. And if you want to see a practical result of that, look at how New York and her elections flavored American politics. They sent a lot of guys up as presidential candidates because Tammany Hall and everything, they had a very organized political machine there, even when the Constitution was being ratified. So if New York had all that power and organization, they were a very large state at the time. If they were allowed, if that power, like in a democracy, was allowed to be the 51%, then they would have been in charge of things from the get-go. But because they made it checks and balances, and each state's electoral votes kind of stand for representation of the state instead of the actual number of people in the state, New York was not always able to get their candidate elected. Teddy Roosevelt came out of that machinery, I think. He was governor up there, I think. So anyway, there have been 5 contested elections in the states, and the most contentious was 1876. I gotta go take care of them. I will be right back. The election of 1876 was the most contentious, and in it, Rutherford B. Hayes won 185 electoral votes, and the opposition, Tilden, and I think Tilden was the one out of New York, won 184 electoral votes. So there's one vote between them, and Tilden won the popular vote by a nice margin. So how did they settle that? Well, they came to what was called the Compromise of 1877, and they agreed, the electors, the people who were counting votes and everything, agreed to let Hayes have the victory because he had the more electoral college votes, in exchange for the end of Reconstruction in the South. And the people in the South who got Reconstruction abolished were called the Redeemers, and they were Democrats. And I think it said that they won the black vote that year because they did that. They ended Reconstruction, which was pretty oppressive to the South. So that took months to settle. And by everyone agreeing to it, the involved parties, it happened. So we should not be thinking, oh, this is something different, this is something new, it's scary and whatever. We should understand it's part of how our Constitution works. And if you want to, go protest. It's actually better if more voices are heard from than just 2, Antifa and BLM, that because Pastor said last night as we were watching some of the people in front of the White House, there were a lot of Christians out there too. All of you should be out there protesting your side of the story, because the more voices that are heard, it's better for how our system works. All right, y'all, I've got things to do. We got sawmill stuff going on. Hang tight. It's going to be voted one way or the other. And yes, it may affect us profoundly, and yet not that much probably will change for the next 4 years. And then could swing another way. Stay in there, stay involved. Bless you. Shalom.